Hello everyone. I'm really glad you are here today. If you want to improve your English in a natural and easy way, you are in the right place. In this lesson, you are not just going to learn words, you are going to learn how real people actually speak in everyday life. Imagine opening your mouth and speaking English smoothly, confidently, and naturally. No hesitation, no translating in your mind, no fear of making mistakes, just clear thoughts flowing into well-formed sentences. It sounds impossible right now, doesn't it? But what if the real secret to fluent English is not learning more grammar rules or memorizing hundreds of difficult words? What if the true key is simply training your brain in the right way? Your brain works like a muscle. When you train it daily, it becomes faster, sharper, and stronger. The problem is that most learners only study English, they don't train their brain to think in English. That is why speaking often feels slow and stressful. In this video, you will learn simple brain training techniques that can completely change the way you speak English. These are methods used by confident speakers around the world. You will discover listening habits that reshape your brain, powerful thinking exercises that eliminate translation, and speaking techniques that make English feel natural and automatic. If you have ever felt stuck, shy, or frustrated with your English speaking skills, this video could change everything for you. Stay with us until the end and start building your English speaking brain today. Subscribe now and begin your journey toward confident English communication. Learning English is often viewed as memorizing vocabulary lists and studying grammar rules. Many learners spend hours trying to remember difficult words, verb forms, and sentence patterns. They believe that the more words they memorize, the better they will speak. However, this approach often leads to frustration. A learner may know hundreds or even thousands of words and still feel unable to speak naturally in real conversations. The reason is simple. Learning words alone is not enough. To speak English fluently, you must train your brain, not just your memory. Your brain plays the most important role in language learning. When you hear or read English, your brain starts building connections between sounds, meanings, and patterns. At first, these connections are weak and slow. That is why beginners often pause before speaking and struggle to form sentences. They are trying to remember rules while translating from their native language at the same time. This process makes speaking feel difficult and stressful. The good news is that your brain can adapt and improve with the right kind of training. Think of your brain as a muscle in your body. If you exercise a muscle regularly, it becomes stronger and more efficient. Athletes train their muscles every day, so their bodies can move faster and perform better. In the same way, language learners must train their brain regularly so that English becomes natural and automatic. When the brain practices English repeatedly, it builds stronger pathways for understanding and speaking. One of the biggest differences between memorizing words and training your brain is how you use the language. Memorization is passive. You read a word, repeat it a few times, and hope to remember it later. Brain training is active. You listen to English, think in English, imagine situations, and speak sentences, even if they are simple. This active use forces your brain to process the language more deeply. Over time, It becomes easier to understand and respond without overthinking. Another important idea is that language is a system of patterns, not just separate words. When your brain hears English regularly, it begins to recognize these patterns naturally. For example, you may hear phrases like, I am going to work, I am going to the store, or I am going to meet a friend. After hearing these patterns many times, your brain understands how they work. Soon, you can create new sentences without memorizing every rule. This is exactly how children learn languages. Regular exposure to English helps your brain develop these patterns. Listening to podcasts, watching videos, and reading simple texts allow your brain to absorb the rhythm and structure of the language. At first, you may not understand everything, and that is completely normal. The goal is not perfect understanding in the beginning. The goal is to give your brain enough input so it becomes familiar with the sounds and flow of English. Speaking practice is another powerful way to train your brain. When you speak even simple sentences, your brain must quickly organize ideas and produce words. This strengthens the connection between thinking and speaking. You might start with small sentences such as, I am drinking coffee, I am studying English, or I am walking outside. These simple statements teach your brain how to turn thoughts into spoken language. Consistency is the most important factor in brain training. Many learners study English intensely for a short period and then stop practicing for days or weeks. This slows progress because the brain needs regular repetition to build strong pathways. Practicing a little every day is far more effective than studying for many hours only once a week. Even 5 or 10 minutes of daily speaking or listening can make a big difference over time. Another helpful strategy is to connect English practice with your daily life. When you describe your actions or surroundings in English, you turn everyday activities into learning opportunities. While cooking, you might think, I am cutting vegetables. I am boiling water. I am preparing dinner. While walking outside, you might say, the sky is blue, the weather is warm, people are walking in the street. These small exercises gradually train your brain to think in English automatically. Patience is also very important in this process. Training your brain takes time, just like training a muscle. In the beginning, progress may feel slow and you may make many mistakes, but mistakes are a natural part of learning. Every attempt to think or speak in English helps your brain grow stronger and more flexible. Over time, pauses become shorter, sentences come faster, and speaking feels more comfortable. Confidence grows as your brain becomes more familiar with English. Instead of worrying about every grammar rule, you begin to focus on communication. You understand that speaking is about sharing ideas, not about being perfect. This mindset allows your brain to relax and respond more naturally in conversations. In the end, the message is simple. Fluency does not come from memorizing endless vocabulary lists. It comes from training your brain through regular exposure, active practice, and consistent habits. When you treat language learning like a daily workout, your brain gradually adapts to the new language. With time and dedication, English becomes easier to understand and much easier to speak. Your brain learns to process thoughts directly in English, and communication begins to flow naturally. One of the biggest challenges many English learners face is the habit of translating every thought from their native language into English. This habit feels natural at the beginning because the brain is more comfortable using the language it already knows. When a learner wants to speak English, the brain first creates the sentence in the native language and then searches for English words to replace each part. This process may seem helpful at first, but it quickly becomes a barrier to fluent communication. It slows down thinking, creates hesitation, and often leads to confusion or mistakes. When translation becomes a habit, the brain works twice as hard. Instead of producing English directly, it must complete two steps. First, it forms a thought in the native language. Then, it tries to convert that thought into English, word by word. This extra step takes time and energy. In real conversations, people speak quickly and naturally, so there is no time for slow translation. As a result, learners pause too often, feel nervous, and sometimes forget what they wanted to say. Another problem with translating is that languages do not always follow the same structure. A sentence that sounds natural in one language may sound strange or incorrect in another. When learners translate directly, they often copy the grammar and patterns of their native language. This can produce sentences that sound unnatural in English. Even if the listener understands the meaning, the speaker may feel unsure or uncomfortable. To become more fluent, it is important to train your brain to think directly in English. Thinking in English removes the extra step of translation and allows ideas to flow more naturally. At first, this may feel difficult because your brain is not used to it. However, with simple practice, your brain gradually adapts and begins to respond in English automatically. The best way to start thinking in English is by using very simple sentences. You do not need complex grammar or advanced vocabulary. Begin with small observations about what you are doing right now. These sentences are easy because the action is happening in the present and the words are common in everyday English. For example, you can say, I am making tea, I am drinking water, or I am sitting on a chair. These sentences are short and clear, which makes them perfect for training your brain. Another helpful method is describing your movement or surroundings. When you walk outside, you can think, I am walking outside. The sun is shining. The air is cool. People are walking in the street. These simple descriptions encourage your brain to connect real experiences with English words. Over time, this connection becomes faster and more natural. Thinking in English during daily activities is one of the most powerful ways to break the translation habit. Every moment of your day can become a small practice session. While cooking, you can think, I am cutting vegetables. I am washing dishes. I am preparing dinner. While studying, you can think, I am reading a book. I am learning new words. I am practicing English. These small thoughts may seem simple, but they build strong language pathways in your brain. Another useful strategy is to describe what you see around you. Look at objects in your room and create small English sentences about them. You might think, The window is open. The table is clean. My phone is on the desk. The room is quiet. This practice trains your brain to recognize objects and immediately connect them with English words instead of translating. Imagination can also help you develop the habit of thinking in English. Imagine situations like visiting a cafe or meeting a friend. In your mind, create short sentences that match the situation. For example, I am ordering coffee. I am talking to my friend. I am waiting for my drink. Even though the situation is imaginary, your brain treats it like real conversation practice. At the beginning, your sentences may feel slow or limited. That is completely normal. Your brain is learning a new skill and needs time to adjust. The important thing is to keep practicing regularly. Each time you think in English, your brain becomes more comfortable with the language. Gradually, the process becomes faster and easier. Listening to English also supports this habit. When you hear natural sentences in podcasts, videos, or conversations, your brain learns how ideas are expressed directly in English. The more you listen, the more your brain absorbs patterns and expressions. These patterns help you think in English without translating. Patience and consistency are essential. Breaking the translation habit does not happen overnight. However, daily practice with simple sentences slowly changes how your brain processes language. After some time, you may notice that English thoughts appear naturally without effort. Instead of translating, your brain simply responds in English. This change is a major step toward fluency. When the brain stops translating, it becomes free to focus on communication and ideas. Speaking becomes smoother and more confident because there is no delay between thinking and speaking. Words appear more naturally, and conversations feel less stressful. In the end, learning to stop translating is about trusting your brain to adapt. With simple sentences, regular practice, and daily observation, your brain learns to form thoughts directly in English. Little by little, English becomes a natural part of your thinking process, and speaking becomes faster, clearer, and more comfortable. You feel less pressure because you are simply repeating what someone else has already said. This makes the practice feel easier, more natural, and more relaxed while still helping you improve your skills. As you continue practicing, you will notice that your brain becomes quicker at understanding English sounds. Your mouth also becomes more comfortable forming words and sentences. The connection between listening and speaking grows stronger over time. Eventually, you begin to speak with greater confidence and fluency. Shadowing is not just a speaking exercise, it is a complete brain training method. It combines listening, pronunciation, rhythm, and instant response. This powerful combination helps your brain learn language patterns much more effectively than memorization alone. In the end, the shadowing technique provides a practical and highly effective way to improve your English speaking ability. By listening carefully and repeating sentences immediately, you train both your brain and your mouth to work together. With patience, daily practice, and focused attention, shadowing can transform the way you speak English and bring you closer to natural, confident communication. Learning to speak English fluently requires more than just memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules. One highly effective way to train your brain for natural communication is through visualization and imagination. Visualization means creating images or situations in your mind and describing them in English. When you imagine real-life experiences, your brain begins to practice language in a way that feels natural and meaningful. This method helps connect your thoughts with English words and sentences. The human brain responds strongly to images and experiences. When you imagine a situation, your brain often reacts as if it is actually happening. This makes visualization a powerful tool for language learning. By imagining conversations and daily activities, you give your brain the chance to practice English, even without another person present. Over time, this strengthens your ability to think and speak in English during real conversations. One of the simplest ways to start using visualization is by imagining everyday situations. For example, picture yourself sitting in a small cafe. You imagine the aroma of coffee and the sound of people talking around you. In your mind, you say a simple sentence like, "I would like a coffee, please." Even though the situation is imaginary, your brain treats it like a real moment of communication. This process helps train your brain to produce English naturally. Another example is imagining yourself walking through a park on a warm day. You see trees gently moving in the breeze and birds flying overhead. While holding this image in your mind, you form simple sentences such as, "I see birds and sunshine. The grass is green. People are walking in the park." These descriptions help your brain connect visual experiences with language. Each sentence becomes a small exercise that strengthens your speaking ability. Visualization works effectively because it combines thinking and speaking. Instead of memorizing isolated words, you use language to describe meaningful situations. This gives context to the words and makes them easier to remember. The brain learns language more efficiently when it is connected to images, emotions, and experiences. Another advantage of imagination is that it allows unlimited practice. In real life, you may not always have the opportunity to speak English with others. However, with imagination, you can create endless scenarios at any time. You can imagine shopping in a store, asking for directions, ordering food at a restaurant, or meeting a new friend. Each situation gives you a chance to form sentences and practice communication. For instance, imagine you are in a bookstore. You walk between shelves filled with books. In your mind, you might say, "I am looking for a good book. I like this story. This book is interesting." These simple sentences help your brain practice vocabulary related to daily activities. Over time, the language becomes more familiar and easier to use in real conversations. Visualization also encourages creativity. You can create detailed stories in your mind and describe them step by step in English. Perhaps you imagine traveling to a new city or visiting a beautiful beach. As you picture the environment, you describe what you see and feel. The sky is blue. The water is clear. I am walking on the sand. These sentences train your brain to organize thoughts directly in English without translating. This method is especially helpful for learners who feel shy about speaking. Practicing with imagination removes the fear of making mistakes in front of others. You are free to experiment with words and sentences while your brain learns how to communicate ideas. With regular practice, your confidence gradually increases and speaking becomes easier. Visualization can also improve fluency. When you imagine a conversation, your brain needs to think quickly and produce sentences one after another, just like in real dialogue. The more you practice this mental exercise, the faster your brain becomes at forming English sentences. To make visualization even more effective, it helps to speak the sentences out loud. Hearing your own voice strengthens the connection between thinking and speaking. Your brain learns not only how to create sentences, but also how they sound when spoken. This improves both fluency and pronunciation. Daily activities provide many opportunities for imaginative practice. While walking outside, you can describe what you see. While cooking, you can explain the steps of your actions. I am cutting vegetables. I am cooking dinner. I am preparing food. These small descriptions turn ordinary moments into valuable language practice. Consistency is the key to success with visualization. Even a few minutes each day can lead to noticeable improvement over time. As your brain becomes used to forming sentences during imagined situations, it becomes easier to speak naturally in real-life conversations. Eventually, your mind begins to respond automatically in English when you encounter similar situations in reality. When you visit a cafe, you may find yourself thinking, "I would like a coffee, please," without hesitation. When you walk through a park, you may naturally notice birds and sunshine and describe them in English. Visualization and imagination act as a bridge between learning and real communication. They allow your brain to rehearse conversations before they actually happen. With consistent practice, your confidence grows and your ability to express ideas becomes smoother and more natural. In the end, using visualization and imagination transforms language learning into an active and creative process. By imagining everyday situations and speaking about them in English, you train your brain to think, communicate, and respond naturally. This powerful technique turns simple thoughts into fluent speech and brings you closer to confident English communication. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to follow and stay connected for more slow and natural English practice. And before you go, tell me in the comments, which new phrase or abbreviation did you like the most today? I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care and keep learning. Because you are capable of becoming everything you've ever imagined. So start today. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. This is your time.